You're stuck at home and you're feeling bored. What's your perfect job? When you got no skills but have to pay those bills, what's your perfect job? I ain't afraid of no jokes. On a new microphone. I ain't afraid of no jokes. If you've got hopes for those freaky hosts, baby, you know it all. When you're all alone, unlock your phone and call. Yeah, listen every week to those freaky hosts speak. Podcasting makes me feel good. So sing a little louder now, sing a little louder now. Now let's get quiet, y'all. Let's get quiet, y'all. Quiet, y'all. Quiet, y'all.
All right, that was literally exactly the same as all the other times. Can we get one quiet one? You're not even listening to me.
Let's talk. Nice.
Hi, I'm Zach.
I'm Spencer, and this is Spencer and Zach Explore the Universe, which is a podcast.
It's a podcast that we make together. Talking about things. Together.
And you're listening to it. It's a podcast that we make about things, and you're listening to it, that you listen to on your devices.
And that works out great because we made it for you to listen to.
Yes.
So everything's firing here.
As of right now, this show, if you are hearing this recording is fulfilling its first best destiny, which is everything we just said over the last subscription killing 4 minutes or whatever it was.
Some of the people that accidentally clicked on it are like, nope, I'm out.
Yeah, I'm good on these guys.
I was going to give it a chance, and then you lost me.
Yeah. I gave it a chance when you launched, and it wasn't that great. And then you brought in the new guy, and
and it got worse.
This is what you're doing with it. This is what you're doing with your time. Welcome to Spencer and Zach Explore the Universe, Season 2, episode, don't know. This is Season 2. And we have enjoyed talking about a range of topics, and we also want to recognize, and I've got this feedback a lot, like, we understand the Faulty Towers episode was long. We understand that. And then to which point we understood it when we did the McCartney episode, that like the first version of that was, 3 hours plus.
Yeah,
and we...
It was like an epic movie length.
Yeah, right. Like, who do we think we are? Like, we talked about Paul McCartney's post-Beatles career for almost as long as the post-Beatles career was. So,
yeah.
But then we dumbed it down.
We realized that people don't necessarily need to hear us go all in on Pipes of Peace or Press to Play.
No. Broad strokes will
we can
probably
just kind of skim over those. Yeah.
Go for broad strokes. But so then we actually re-recorded that episode to get it down to its reasonable, whatever it was, hour and change running time. And this week, you know what? I'm hoping we can stick the landing on this topic efficiently as well. Maybe we can get this one under an hour. You know?
Ooh, all right.
What do you say? You up for the
Should I
challenge?
set the timer? I'm up for the challenge, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm also
I love a good challenge.
perfectly willing to accept that we might fail. This show is brought to you by Maine Spirits. Who are Maine Spirits, you might be asking yourself? Well, I can tell you this. Maine Spirits bring all of the liquor into the great state of Maine and then disseminate it to various restaurants, bars, stores, whatnot. So in celebration of this gracious act I will show you how to make a delicious cocktail at home, safely and comfortably in your own home. You can find out more about Maine Spirits by downloading their app for your smartphone, but not for the Razor phone yet, Zach. Sorry. I know. They're working on it. I think they're working on it. And you can also follow them on the Instagram, where they post a lot of videos and how-tos and tutorials and takeovers and all kinds of stuff. My friend Mark Hibbard actually writes wonderful pieces for them. I haven't laughed as hard at a food-related writing maybe ever. The guy's really a wordsmith and a great maker of cocktails. Mark Hibbard, at HibbardMF on the Instagram, if you want to follow him. Got all kinds of good things going on over there. But you can also go to mainspirits.com for your traditional website type information.
This show is also brought to you by Bull Moose. Bull Moose, all of the multimedia you can desire. Games, music, movies, they got it. Little silly trinkets and mugs that say funny things on them. This is the place for you, Bull Moose. Stores all over Maine and New Hampshire. They are open for retail with the safety protocols in line for the pandemic that we are currently going through. And they are available online at bullmoose.com. So get on your Dell and go to bullmoose.com.
Yeah.
And this show's not brought to you by Dell.
No, this show's not brought to us by Dell. But if they want to give us some money, we'd like to let them know that they are not a good company.
Yeah, they're awful.
They make a really lousy product. So go ahead and send us some money. Actually, I'm looking at a Dell monitor right now, which I have as my secondary monitor because I'll give them this. I got a cheap monitor that works pretty damn well considering the price. So
there you go.
Other than that, they are cruel. I'm just kidding. I don't know anything about the Dell company.
I don't know. They had annoying commercials in the 90s.
They really did.
Somehow, yeah. So that's it. That's all I have to say about Dell.
Yeah.
I don't know why we're even talking about them. Sorry, I brought it up.
Yeah, it's your fault.
Just go to bullmoose.com on any computer of your choice or smart device.
Yep. Speaking of Dell, Bull Moose. Also, we are brought to you by Suntiki Studios on Forest Avenue here in Portland, Maine. They are a top flight rehearsal and performance space. And due to the pandemic that's on, there's a bit of a pandemic on. Don't want to alarm anybody. But they've obviously ceased doing shows and rehearsals for a while. But now they have meticulously reconstructed the flow of the space to facilitate safe distance rehearsals. So if you want to get the old band back together and knock the rust off, just in case we ever get to play live shows again, Suntiki is there for you. You can find out more about them on the shit show dumpster fire known as Facebook, or more reasonably and with a higher certainty of less false information at suntikistudios.com. Although I'm pretty sure they have a handle on their Facebook page. I don't think you have to worry about any massive society crumbling untruths on these.
Their page isn't littered with conspiracy theories.
Littered. I don't think so.
And calls to action in response to situations that will never, ever happen.
Yeah. Like and share.
Yeah. This meme is the truth. Put it all over the place.
Do you love music or do you hate the troops? Does it have to be?
I was hoping there was a third option.
Yeah, like I really like music, and like I'm appreciative of the troops. Like, good Lord. Yeah. So Facebook, send us money. You're terrible.
That's right.
Yeah. To give us some money back. How about that? They have enough.
Yeah, or we'll withdraw all of our advertising and cost you tens of dollars. Mm-hmm. If even that.
I actually haven't been advertising on
zeros
Facebook.
of dollars.
But then, yeah, I like that Instagram did that update now. It's like now when you open up your Instagram app, it says Instagram by Facebook. It's like, don't remind me.
Yeah.
You know?
Well,
Yeah.
oh, go. I was just going to say, what should we talk about this week?
Well, I think this week we should talk about the Ghostbusters franchise, specifically
Ooh.
the second movie, because
Ooh.
the first movie has been pulled apart and put together again by people with in much higher pay grades than you and I.
That's right. I think, film experts and critics and pop
Yes.
culture enthusiasts have all dug through Ghostbusters and gone over every aspect of it.
Yep.
However, Ghostbusters 2
Yes.
often gets pushed aside,
And-
and that's where the B team comes in.
Send in the B team. And we're here on cleanup duty, and we're going to talk about Ghostbusters 2 shortly wow, how about my mouth? Shortly after we play you the sound from a 1978 PBS special about sea anemones. And now we can start talking about the show.
Excellent. I want to watch the show about the sea anemone.
The sea anemone. If you just play it and you just say that, then here, I'll do it. Check it. The sea anemone. The sea anemone. It just feels right.
It just feels right.
Feels right. Sounds right. So this movie, was a favorite of mine as a child. And I would say acutely over the past, 10, 15 years of our friendship, we have stood on two different sides on this movie. I feel that in retrospect, after I kind of got over, like as a kid, I was just enthusiastic about it because I was a kid, this is also an age that I thought a donut was a good breakfast,
Yeah.
Right. So it has not aged as well for me over the past 10 or 15 years. But more recently, I've been thinking about it more, and I will agree and concede that I feel like I've been overly dismissive of it and a little too hard on it. And that is through the steadfast encouragement of you, Zach. So do you want to speak to this movie for a moment?
Sure. Well, I guess I'll start off just talking about my relationship with the Ghostbusters.
Oh, yes, please do.
Which, began as a small child. I was not old enough to have seen the original one in the theater. I never saw it on big screens until I was in my 20s. But back in the 80s, when families didn't own VCRs quite yet, and you'd go to the video store and pick out your movie, and then you'd go up to the desk and you would also rent the machine to play the movie on. And so that was the condition which I first saw Ghostbusters under, was we brought home the VCR, and that was as big of an event for the family as going to the movie theater at the time. It's ooh, we can watch movies at home. This is amazing.
Oh, it's crazy.
And I remember that being one of those, rentals that, I watched 6 times in one rental. But I didn't get the opportunity to be a daily watcher of it because we didn't own a VCR and I didn't have just didn't have the capacity to. But within, between the two movies, the cartoon series came out, The Real Ghostbusters. And I was equally into that show. I loved that show. I loved the theme song. I loved all just the wackiness of it. I have not gone back to revisit it as an adult, so I have no idea how it holds up. But as a kid, I loved it. And when I finally saw that a Ghostbusters 2 was coming out, I was so incredibly excited. And when I was 7 years old, I had a case of the shingles, which is something that usually people don't get until they're in their 40s or 50s. But I had it at age 7. I had this horrible patch of shingles on my back that just hurt so bad, and I was out of school and stuff for a while.
You've always been ahead of your
and I
time.
remember, that's right. Just also, I learned recently that shingles is something you can get more than once. I was under the impression for most of my life that it was like the chicken pox, and once you get it, you're good. I was like, all right, got that out of the way at age 7, I'm good to go. But turns out that could come back at some time. Who knows? But yeah, while I was in bed, I got a single of the theme song to Ghostbusters 2, All on Our Own by Bobby Brown. And it was like the greatest. At first I was thinking I may have got it for Christmas, but I'm just looking now and seeing that Ghostbusters 2 came out in June and my birthday is in May, so I must have got it for my birthday. But I just remember lying in bed and looking at that cover and just like seeing how cool they look with like their new like the slime packs and all that. Like
Slightly
and
grayer
just listening to that
suits.
song. Yeah. And listening to that song on repeat, I was so excited for it. And then my dad took my sister and I to go see it in the theater, and it incorporated things from the show. And because I'd seen the show more than I'd seen the original movie at that point, those things actually kind of spoke to me as a kid. Like, you know, Janine with her wacky big glasses and hairdo, and Slimer living in the firehouse and stuff like that. It was like it tied into that universe for me at the time. But it's a movie that, you know, I do have that childhood association with, but also I think there is a lot of humor in it that stands up to the first one. I mean, obviously, the first one is one of the greatest comedies ever made.
Ever.
So what can you do? But yeah, there are.
What do you mean?
definitely
Like,
some
what,
issues
you mean
with
what
this
you
movie.
can do is in like, how do you follow it up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, especially like 5 years had gone by since the original one too. The world had changed a little bit. We were getting ready to go into the 90s. Nobody knew what that was going to be like. But yeah, there are a lot of elements to this movie that I really like. Especially a lot of the plot elements in the early part of the movie, where basically there's been a lot of fallout from their activities in the first one. Like, you know, the first movie ends like triumphantly, like they just saved New York. And then the first line you get referencing the first movie in the second one is like, we conjured up a 100-foot marshmallow man. We blew three floors off the top of a building, and got sued by every aspect of the town of New York and got put out of business.
What a ride.
I don't know. What a ride.
Yeah.
So yeah,
The fallout from the meddling bureaucracy is like that's how we open. We cut to our heroes, and they're Peter Venkman is hosting a PBS show called World of the Psychic, which is horseshit, and I would watch it every day if it were on. It looks great.
Absolutely. I mean, it's funny. In the context of the movie, like Bill Murray is skeptical of his psychics, yet he has worked as like a ghost eliminator.
Yeah. He doesn't believe in his own trade.
Exactly.
It's a grift for him. And
you get a piece of like that one episode, but you would have to imagine that however many episodes of that show they made, he was always just skeptical of his guests.
Yeah. He's what the British people would call a confidence trickster, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then Ray owns Ray's Occult Books. Egon is now doing some like what would appear to be like university work, like actual science.
Although even the science he's doing in that capacity is pretty silly.
Yeah, it's still silly.
It does end up playing into the larger plot too. He's talking about how attitudes might affect the atmosphere in the room or something like that.
That's right.
Things like. He's got people in a simulated waiting room. They don't know they're being watched. He's like, they've been in there for 2 hours. Now I'm sending my assistant in to tell them that they're going to have to wait another hour.
Yeah, and they keep raising
and I've been
the heat
increasing
as well.
the heat 1 degree.
Yeah. So all this stuff is good, and let me jump in. I'll give my relationship to the whole thing. Like, I did see the original in the theaters a couple of times. I mainly watched it because I taped it off of ABC TV. You can go ahead and send us a check. Thank you. In the 80s. And it was a different version of the movie, slightly different version, because that was back when instead of just like bleeping or overdubbing dialogue, they would actually shoot different scenes with cleaner language for the TV stream, and it would broadcast. So I grew up with like a slightly different version. But watched it a bazillion times, and when the second one was coming out, I, like you, a little bit older, still not too old to be excited about something like Ghostbusters, though. You know what I mean? Like in a, it's still, I hadn't quite entered into like teen years yet. And, I was only like 30. So I was like really excited when it came out. Just kidding. It was,
Just derail yourself with your own joke.
yeah, I derailed myself because I thought I lost you because I thought that was going to get like a much better laugh and you gave me nothing. So I thought like, I assumed we were disconnected. Yeah. That's exactly what happened. No, but like I had the single like you because Bobby Brown was also like, I mean, that was a win-win because I had a lot of Bobby Brown singles at that time. And if he's doing the new Ghostbusters theme song, like, duh. And so I was super pumped when it came out, the second one, and I saw it in the theaters opening day with a friend. We like went early because we thought there'd be a line. There wasn't. And I remember at the time like liking it, but I left with this feeling of like, but it's also like it's a lot to compare it to. Like to live up to the first one is a lot. And I want to, on one hand, be like, well, how do you live up to the first one? But like, I will say that Empire Strikes Back exceeds the first one. I'll say the same for Star Trek 2. I will say that Aliens is as good as Alien. And it's rare for it to happen, but it is possible. And the first one was shot with a modest budget comparative to what they're trying to achieve, the story they were trying to tell. The story started off, Dan Aykroyd is the originator of the idea. And the original script that he passed in for the first one was like hundreds of pages long. And I just learned recently, like a script is like usually like 75 pages long. And his is hundreds of pages long and had them traveling through space and time. And it wasn't until Harold Ramis got a hold of the script and really pared it down. Instead of, he was like, how about New York instead of space and time? And which brought everything down.
Sounds reasonable.
Yeah. And even though like Dan Aykroyd obviously like is a genius and he has great ideas, like he clearly is not like much of a self-editor, right? And if you want an example of Dan Aykroyd being left in charge of everything, all aspects, watch a movie called Nothing But Trouble, and you'll see what I mean. If you haven't seen it, don't bother, or do, but I'm not recommending it. I'm just saying that it exists. If you have seen it, you know what I'm talking about. And this is where I kind of get to the core of, I think that the problem with Ghostbusters 2 is Dan Aykroyd. And I want to kind of fast forward and cite a few examples, and then I'll kind of go back, okay? Dan Aykroyd now is very entrepreneurial. He, at least at some point, had a stake and was a co-creator of the House of Blues venues, which I don't know if he still has ownership in. But he was there for that. He has like Crystal Vodka, I believe. And like, and who knows what else he's got, his hands in. So if you kind of go back, the first Ghostbusters was kind of rushed and very limited. They had to really pare it down to what was important. Every moment that's on screen is very important and helps tell the story for the most part, almost every moment. I know you've got a scene in the first one that you don't particularly love.
Yeah.
Do you care to elaborate?
Ghost BJ.
Ghost.
In a movie filled with absolutely brilliant jokes, some very subtle, some very obvious. It always seems out of place when they just go to like a lewd kind of immature joke.
Yeah.
That's not like character based, I guess. I mean, I guess it is presented kind of as a dream sequence.
Yeah.
But still, every time, that's the one scene in that movie where I'm just like, I wish they just snipped this part out.
Cringe down. And that wasn't in the televised version. So I didn't, the version I kind of really knew growing up didn't have it in it. And seeing it afterwards, it's like, gross. Yeah. I mean, let's not, get confused here. Like, Ghostbusters is full of lewd humor, but it's all so brilliantly masked. I remember one time watching it with my parents, and they were laughing away at this stuff, and I'm just like, what? I just didn't You know what I mean? It didn't occur to me as a kid, and not until watching it as an adult. I'm like, oh, I see what they did there. You know?
Yeah. Well, I think, like obviously Venkman is presented as a womanizer at the beginning.
Yes.
And, there's a lot of that stuff where it's like it could be lowbrow, but it fits the character.
Highbrow, lowbrow.
Versus like, yeah.
Yeah.
Versus highbrow, lowbrow. Versus the Ghost BJ, which is just like a scene that is not particularly like catered to any of the characters' personalities or anything like that.
Yeah, it's just like a gratuitous '80s scene.
Yeah,
it's yeah. So so the first movie like was made on at a fast pace. They even were getting special effects shots in. It was the same group that was working on the animation stuff for Return of the Jedi, and the same team. I think that it was all at Industrial Light and Magic, right? And,
I think so.
Yeah, and it turns out, which I learned from you, Zach, that they were using some of the effects that ended up in the final movie were actually just like the dailies from them.
Yeah, that's. I watched the movies that made us episode on the Ghostbusters, and that was one of my big takeaways. Is they would send over the test shots, and Ivan Reitman would just slot them into the movie and be like, "All right, thanks, next shot."
Right.
And they were like, "That was a test shot."
Right. They're like, good enough, thanks. And it was, for the most part. I mean, there's a couple shots that don't really work out or haven't like held up, but like a lot of the effects design certainly does hold up. Like and just you wouldn't need to replace it, clean it up. It just has a vibe. It works, tells the story.
Yeah. But that movie never, like, the strength of that movie or the strength of the story didn't need to rely on the effects.
That's right.
And I think that they knew that while they were making it. Is that that's not where the focus of this story is.
That's right.
They just need to be good enough to work.
Yeah, they had a great cast, great story, and everything else is going to be gravy at that point. That's kind of how, I mean, not to like derail, but that's kind of how like the original run of Doctor Who was successful because like, they had no budget and the special effects were oftentimes incredibly suspect, really bad. Actually, it's just really bad. And you just simply have to believe that, that the hunk of tinfoil is deadly. And once you just accept that the hunk of tinfoil is deadly, then you're just like, you're in the story and you're with the characters and you're with the actors and it's great. This is the case for Ghostbusters. Obviously, the special effects are quite good, very good, excellent at times, and at worst, fine. But they all tell the story. And they also, part of the rush of it was that they didn't have time to franchise it. Like they didn't think about it in terms of like merchandising and stuff like that because it was just, they didn't expect it to be that big a hit. They just, it took over. Like I've referenced this to you before, Zach, but like when the 89 Batman came out, the Tim Burton one with Michael Keaton, it was huge. It was everywhere.
Oh yeah.
Everyone had a Batman t-shirt, had Batman chucks, it was just,
the hats, the keychains, everybody had some sort of Batman merchandise on them.
Everywhere. And Ghostbusters was that too. Like there were t-shirts and all this stuff available, balloons, and it was just everywhere. It was a pop culture phenomenon at the time. It had a great theme song. It broke ground being like really the first best horror comedy. Like I'll go ahead and discount like Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, Maybe they kick the door open, but whatever. But this movie was like, it was huge, and it made huge stars of Bill Murray and even huger stars of Harold Ramis and Dan Aykroyd. And Sigourney Weaver at that point was, she had done Alien but like wasn't per se like a marquee name at that time, but now she's huge. Rick Moranis blew up after that. Even Annie Potts went on to Designing Women after that. Remember that show?
I remember it. I never watched it, and I didn't know that she was on it.
When I was a kid, I watched it because she was in it.
Wow.
Yeah. But yeah, so like all this time passes and Dan Aykroyd goes to work on another script but But now and I want to kind of go back to when I was mentioning like how entrepreneurial he is. He's thinking about franchise stuff. He's thinking about tie-ins and merchandise. And they have the Ghostbusters TV show that you were talking about, the real Ghostbusters. And, they cartoonized everybody and changed their look. And there's much more like, in that Janine looked like kind of like she didn't make the cut for the video shoot for Girls Just Want to Have Fun. And, but she's the only one with like a radical update in her look.
Yeah.
But yeah, that they have like Slimer now has a name. He didn't have a name in the first one. He was actually in the first one, he was created as an homage to John Belushi, who was actually supposed to play Bill Murray's role. Mm-hmm. And while we're in the actually department, Eddie Murphy was the first choice to play Winston, which went to Ernie Hudson, and I believe the role was rewritten a little bit after they didn't have.
I think it was pretty radically rewritten when Eddie Murphy was not able to sign on board. But yeah, because there was in Aykroyd's original script, there were just two Ghostbusters. It was Aykroyd and Belushi traveling through space and time. Mm-hmm. And then I can't remember how it got in the hands of Harold Ramis. I think maybe Ivan Reitman came on board because he liked the basic idea.
I think that's true.
Harold Ramis in.
Yep.
Yeah, and then that's of course when the team got expanded. But I think John Belushi had already died at that point.
He had,
and so they already had Bill Murray in mind to replace him. And and then when Eddie Murphy fell through, they kind of reworked the Winston role. Mm-hmm. But it works. I think we talked about this in one of the earlier podcasts. But just like how if Eddie Murphy is such like a huge screen presence and such like a outlandishly hilarious guy, mm-hmm. that I think he and Bill Murray would have been like fighting for. Where is the comedic heart of this movie?
Yep.
Whereas Ernie Hudson became like kind of the everyman that you relate to.
Yeah, like Eddie Murphy was supposed to be the side guy in 48 Hours, but that is very clearly an Eddie Murphy movie.
Yeah, exactly.
He's like actually the only redeeming quality of that movie.
I need to go back and rewatch it.
I don't know if you do. I did it recently. I'll just do.
Well, I know you've talked about it a few times and have been very not happy with it. Like I kind of remember liking that movie.
Let me just put it simply like this. 48 Hours. Does it hold up?
Does it hold up now that we're grown up? It was the shit when we were young, but nowadays is it as fun? Does it hold up like before?
No. That was Does It Hold Up?
Does it hold up now that we're grown up? It was the shit when we were young, but nowadays is it as fun? Does it hold up like before?
Well, hello there. It's your old pal Zach from Zach and Spencer Explore the Universe. And I am here with your Bull Moose Minute for the week, beginning on July 13th. Well, what do we have this week? We have Joy Division, Closer, and 3 12 inches, all on colored vinyl. Well, that sounds quite nice. What else do we have, you may ask? Or maybe you didn't, but I just asked it anyway, so the question has been posed. The answer to that question is David Mitchell, Utopia Avenue, a hardcover book. Utopia Avenue is about a fictional up-and-coming band in London in 1968, but real musicians and producers from our real world keep showing up in it. For example, a pre-Yes Rick Wakeman shows up on page 1. Page 1, that's not messing around. That's getting right down to business. That sounds really exciting, actually. I kind of wish that I wrote that book. I want to write a book about a fictional band, but mine's going to be in 1967, so even though I'm going to write it after this guy's book, it's going to take place before it. So it's kind of my idea first because it's a year earlier. Anyway, hopefully when my book comes out, that'll also be available at Bull Moose because they've got stores all over Maine and New Hampshire, and they've got all your needs taken care of. All your CDs, LPs, books, magazines. They even print magazines anymore? I'm not sure. But if they do, Bull Moose has them. Posters. So they're available. They're open for in-store retail right now with safety precautions in place for the pandemic that is going on. And they're also available at bullmoose.com. So visit bullmoose.com or visit one of their many stores. This has been your Bull Moose Minute. A quick detour from Ghostbusters to talk about 48 Hours. And now we're back.
Yeah. So going into, this is all kind of a bunch of setup, but like going from Ghostbusters, which wasn't, I mean, obviously they thought it was a good idea, but they couldn't have anticipated it being as big as it was. And now they're coming into the sequel. They have the TV show, and then you also have, Dan Aykroyd being the lead champion of making another movie, because he's just franchise hungry. He's like, and every time you see, this is evidenced also by like bonus features, like interviews. There's an interview with Reitman and Aykroyd, and Aykroyd talks about it as a property. And Ivan Reitman speaks about the movies as a story. You know what I mean? So you can just see their mindsets. He's always talking about numbers and all this stuff. But so coming into the second one, they had 5 years. They do the theme song thing again. That's great. And it turns out the theme song is great. It's the Bobby Brown jam is a jam. But my problems with it, watching it more recently, because I watched both of them just to be fresh for this convo today. The first one is like, there are some moments, that aren't the best. There are certainly some themes that, contextually now in 2020 would probably need to be altered, or maybe should have been altered in the first one. But like, even though this movie, I think in a lot of ways was relatively offbeat and progressive, considering the surrounding productions. Yeah, there's still shit in there. There's like, it might change, but like it's by and large, like if you can just look at it objectively as a body of work that has a beginning, a middle, and end, like they really nailed it. The whole thing is just they stuck the landing on just about everything they put out there.
It's an A+ movie.
A+ movie. The second one, I used to be more dismissive of it generally, but now in watching it just recently, I now have it focused down to what it is I don't like about it. And I'm fairly certain that the originator of the things I don't like might be Dan Aykroyd. So, I mean, I know that you speak more highly of it. Are there things in the movie that you don't like? Do you think that are shortcomings? And do you kind of want to speak to that for a minute?
So I think one of Bill Murray's big complaints about the second one, and I've heard it echoed over and over again from other people who dismissed the movie, is that the special effects guys took over and some of the comedy was lost. And I can see, and it's true to an extent. I mean, it's a much more special effects heavy movie than the first one for sure. You can definitely feel the attempts to make a bigger, more impressive movie or something like that versus the first one where the special effects were just there to tell the story. This time it was like, we need to make a big spectacle of a movie to outdo the size of the first one. So I think that's true, but it's not as, I always think of that Bill Murray quote, and then I go in watching the movie expecting special effects all over the place, and they are, but they're not quite as like distracting or the comedy still shines through. I would say my biggest complaint really is just the abrupt ending. It's like they wrap up the core of the story and then they just don't really know where to go with it, other than, hey, look, the painting changed, and then the movie's over. And that whole part of it, I guess, plays out a little too quickly for my tastes. But it's still funny. I don't know. It still gets me.
So I agree with you. Like when these characters are on screen together, their chemistry is just like, it almost wouldn't matter whether the script was good or bad. Like, these actors are a good fit. And the way they kind of broke it up a little bit, like now Bill Murray is over here like trying to repair his failed marriage to Dana Barrett, Sigourney Weaver's character. she's in much more of a forward role.
Yeah.
And then
I think she's the first person we see on screen from the previous movie too.
I think that's true. And then also like having Bill Murray kind of be more distracted by that portion of the program leaves more space for Winston's character to come more forward.
Yeah, I love that Winston is much more part of the team in this one. He's, with them on their crazy like excursions into the underground and all that stuff.
Right. He's actually like leading the charge in a lot of the scenes, which I mean, in the first movie, he didn't come in until like late second act. So like it stands to reason that he wouldn't have been as integrated, but like after dealing with like all the lawsuits and stuff, that's got to be a bonding experience. So, but my biggest problems with the movie are this, and I think it's all derived from Aykroyd's hunger for franchise profits, right? And moving away from the just the story. I think it's probably true that like the heart of the story, even though like Aykroyd conceptually came up with it, I feel like Harold Ramis really reined it in and made it like.
I learned something new about this movie today that I want to tell you about.
Please.
But I'm gonna let you finish your thought.
No,
first.
go ahead.
Oh, well, basically, I learned that this movie started out very similar to the last movie, being that Dan Aykroyd came in with just this wacky script, where in the first movie they ascended to the top of the building, so he wanted this one for them to go deep underground, and he wrote the script of them like fighting ghosts underground in like another country or something like that. And the same thing happened where it came across Harold Ramis's desk, and he was like, "How about underground in Castlevania or Transylvania, wherever we are, is replaced with New York again?" It's like, so yeah, I think it went through a lot of that same process of wacky Aykroyd ideas brought down to something that works by Harold Ramis.
Right, and he just swings for the fences. Like his all of his scripts are notoriously long, and they have to be cut down. And it takes somebody like a genius like Harold Ramis to see the genius in what Aykroyd's trying to do, and kind of focus that and hone it, and just pare it down to the essentials. And for so much of the movie, it's so successful. When they're all on screen together, the dialogue between them, the backstories, it's all great. Like what's been happening over 5 years. The characters have all grown and gone through like hardship. They end up in court together again. That whole, and that's like one of those scenes like which is a big special effects scene, but it was awesome. The scene, whole scene is well written, well directed.
I love in that scene that. The Ghostbusters still don't really understand how their technology works.
Yes.
Like, there's a scene when they first start firing the proton packs at the Scoleri brothers, the ghosts that have now escaped from the slime.
Yep.
Like the ghosts just go through the wall. And just like when they're fighting on the rooftop in the first movie, when they think they've disintegrated the ghost or something, and they start like kind of like congratulating each other. It's like, I love that whole aspect of just like, we've been Ghostbusters before, we've done a ton of work, and we still don't really get this.
Yes, but it's always Egon that's like, hold on, like.
Yeah, exactly.
Bill Murray's just ready to celebrate. It's like Miller time for him.
Ray and Peter both start laughing, and then Egon's like, ha. Like, I'm not sure if I should commit to this laughter yet.
That's right. I love all of the writing. The interpersonal writing's all great. Like the characters are like still fully developed. Everything that everyone does is within the context of their character. Like Bill Murray, like who used to be like the womanizing college guy. I don't even know if he's a professor, like whatever. He ran that program, and he's now just been he's been to the top of the mountain. He's fallen way down. He's beaten down by life. He was married. He's like subdued in all of the ways that like you would be if you just like your life was a shit show. And now he's just like the bachelor with like dirty clothes. He's just like kind of pathetic. You know what I mean? Like, but he still kind of has that twinkle in his eye, like he's still killing it, even though he knows in his heart, he's not. I love all that stuff. What I don't like is, and this happens like kind of right out of the gate, where one of the things that two of them do, Ray and Winston, is that they'll perform at birthday parties which I love that idea. I love that they're just so down on their luck that they're hiring themselves out for a few $100 at a whack to just.
And they're bringing their nuclear accelerators into a room full of kids.
This is hilarious. That's like indicative of the good humor imbued throughout the whole, both stories. Like, like that the EPA is the bad guy in the first one. Aside from the, the evil demons. But the Environmental Protection Agency is the bummer here. That's a very hilarious joke. But what I don't like about it is that they bring with them a boombox and they play their own theme song, and I have a big problem with that because it breaks the wall. Like, why would they know their own theme song? I don't think Darth Vader walks around whistling. That's for us. That's for us. You know what I mean? And it's soundtrack. And once they broke that fourth wall, I think that they just opened themselves up to some corniness, and they shouldn't have. And I feel like whoever the opposing voice to that should have been louder. You know what I mean?
See, that doesn't bother me as much because I feel like even in universe they're they've got TV commercials. Like in the first one, they pretty much became local celebrities, and it seems to reason to me that somewhere along the line, even though we don't see it on screen, maybe they wrote a theme song and now they're playing it at the birthday party.
No, but they'd already established it in the first one.
It
existed at the very top of the first one. It wasn't written with the intent of being a jingle. Michael Jordan doesn't have a jingle. Barack Obama doesn't have a jingle.
I don't know. No, he doesn't. But Barack Obama's not fighting ghosts in a movie either. I don't know. It seems to me that even though it's presented in the first movie, it's for the audience.
Hold on, can you imagine if Barack Obama starred in the next Ghostbusters movie? That would be so awesome.
Yes, it would be amazing.
he instead of using the weapons, he just reasoned with them.
But they have their own logo is everywhere in the movie, even with the two. And it's I don't know.
No, that's fine. I'll give you the logo because companies have them. I'm sorry to steamroll you here, but I can't. It's not. To me, it's kind of like semantics, right? It's like it wasn't the theme song wasn't intended to be their jingle. It was the top of it introduces you to the movie, and yes, they use it for the montage in the first movie. It's soundtrack work. It's for us. It paints the picture. It's not for the characters to acknowledge that we have this theme song. And furthermore, with their logo, everything is 2. The ghost has the number 2. If you and I had a vacuum cleaner repair company that went out of business because maybe we were huge at one point and we went out of business, and then suddenly everyone realized that they needed vacuum cleaner repair, it wouldn't be called, Zach and Spencer's Vacuum Cleaner Repair 2, and our logo wouldn't say 2. We'd just be open again. And that's just another example of how they break that wall, and it's just about merchandising. It just should have been just keep the goddamn logo the same. The logo's great. Leave it. It doesn't. We
Let me throw this at you.
Go ahead.
We've seen their cheesy on television advertisements in the movie. How many used car places or whatever businesses on local ads, they've got their cheesy jingles. I mean, it's not a full on Ray Parker Jr. production. But
not like Pelican Brief.
But there's plenty of local businesses that have their own theme song. It doesn't seem like such a stretch to me that they would have a Ghostbusters song, and it's easier, I guess, for the filmmakers to use the one that we already know than to write a shitty what it might sound like in universe. Although that probably would have been hilarious
if they had a scene in the first movie where they're when Ray shows up with the whip. It's I got the car.
Yeah.
And if one of them was
working on the theme song,
and they played it and be oh, that's pretty catchy. Fine if they acknowledge that was their jingle, but they didn't, and I don't buy it. And and it's not just that. If it were just that, I could kind of get away with it. It's the things that they brought in from the cartoon. As you mentioned, it made you comfortable as a kid because you were more in tune with the cartoon than you were the first movie by the time the second one came out, and it played in. But in coming from the first one to the second one, it's there's really no reason for Janine to go from this relatively subdued, buttoned down, pragmatic, administrative assistant to suddenly like dressing. Not that much time had passed. You know what I mean? It's only like a few years.
It's been 5 years.
Well, 5 years
in
when
movie time and real life.
Fine,
But it's also 84 to 89. I feel like there was a, not that I remember it super clearly, but there was a pretty big change, right, in styles. And
you can see if her hair got longer, but like to go from like like a Republican to
Cyndi Lauper's stand-in.
to kind of like it's in whatever. It doesn't ruin it because like Annie Potts like holds onto it. You know, and she's still great in the role, but like I just think that like again, like if Janine were presented in this first movie as a bright and colorful person, you know what I mean, who exudes like these, I don't know, just like the fashion, like she just is so buttoned down in the first one. Like I think she even has like that weird like ruffle collar, like librarian collar thing, or glasses with like the little chains and everything, and she's reading magazines. Oh, I'm a big reader.
But it's like there's like some like leftover 70s style there. I mean, I know I don't know. Like this is like she's like firmly 80s by in Ghostbusters 2.
Yeah, I just like I said, that doesn't ruin it for me, but it's just cumulatively between that and like the Slimer, like suddenly being called Slimer where he wasn't. I guess that's fine, passable. They could. Everyone gets a nickname eventually, right? Like you if you adopt a dog, you name them at some point. But and I think they could have even gone further with that. Like, why couldn't they have, instead of just like this like little shout out, like actually have that character be part of the daily goings on rather than.
So here's another thing that I learned just today. Was that apparently there was a whole subplot that was, a lot of it was filmed, a lot of it wasn't. But this whole subplot with Louis Tully at the Ghostbusters place, and he wants to be a Ghostbuster. And because Slimer is like haunting their place, Louis keeps trying to catch Slimer. He keeps trying to like lure him in with like chicken bones and stuff like that and try to catch him in the trap. And it doesn't work out, but obviously then Slimer turns up driving the bus and stuff like that. So I think they did initially. I'm glad they cut all that stuff out because it sounds kind of terrible.
See, I'd rather have it in there than the remnants that are left over, which is just like these cursory mentions. Like it's just like it just feels like, oh, we'll just shout this out so that everyone's like, oh, the thing from the last movie that I like so much.
Yeah,
and the biggest kicker, and I'm eye to eye with you. I really feel like they do a great job with the setup. The story's great. The character interaction's great. I love the whole plot, like with Vigo and his evil spirit lives in this creepy ass painting and all the things they do with that and controlling. Oh, Peter McNichols. We haven't even brought him up before. What a great performance. As Janos. And
another thing I learned today is that his character, they never give it away in the movie, but apparently he was supposed to be Carpathian.
Oh.
All we get is, where are you from? I'm from the Upper West Side.
Oh, yeah, that's a great line.
Which is actually even funnier. But they said that, on the page, I guess that character wasn't that spectacular. And they're like, what if he's from Carpathia? And that's why he loves this guy so much.
Right.
So Peter McNichols got to like create this whole, create the accent and create all that stuff.
Right.
But they never tell you that in the movie.
That's great. Yeah, see, that would enrich the story even more too. But I bet like... because there's so much room taken up by a lot of unnecessary stuff, like the way, so to kind of get back, like the way it comes together in the third act, or rather falls apart by the end of it, is really, to me, it's a bummer. It's like, it's just like, and I think that the reason that comes together so poorly is because of this. If I am to get into what I think Dan Aykroyd's brain looks like, in his mind, the last movie ended with a big giant thing walking through the streets. And so if we're going to do that again, how can we make something even more giant and bigger walk through the streets? And so they figure out a way, because naturally if you spray slime on something, you can animate a concrete statue. And so they got
the toaster to dance.
They got the toaster to jump around.
That's kind of set up for it.
They got to jump around, but like, I mean...
it changed the composition of the materials of the Statue of Liberty.
I don't buy it, and I just don't think they needed it. I don't think there are other ways they could have because what they're trying to do, if you haven't seen it, they're trying to conjure good vibes because
Hey, remember the Ghostbusters?
well, remember the Ghostbusters, but also like the plot of this movie is that people's anger and all that bad energy is manifesting itself physically in the form of this slime, which then is kind of like used to protect Vigo, and like this all coming, it's powering him, it's just raising the evil levels and all this negative energy. So they're looking for something to unify everybody on New Year's Eve to like make all of a sudden New Yorkers be happy. Like, wouldn't it have been more creative to conjure the ghost of Frank Sinatra to sing New York, New York? Like, you know what I mean? That would have been like
There's a lot of different avenues they could have gone down
anything other than what they did,
rather than walking Statue of Liberty down the avenue.
which was just, I mean, we'd seen it. They'd already done the big thing walking down the street, and it was hilarious because it was the mascot for marshmallows. Like, that's funny.
Yeah.
You know, even that was a joke. And the Statue of Liberty thing is not a joke. It's just more special effects. And that's, to me, those are the big things that turn me off from this movie. One being the breaking the fourth wall, don't like it, and the treading over, treading over already used kind of ideas just to repeat themselves or outdo those ideas for the second one. And I feel like those really, I would be shocked if they didn't come from Dan Aykroyd. I feel like they probably came from like an executive at Columbia or something.
Oh yeah, some suit. Like,
Yeah, but I
need to outdo that.
what's that?
Oh, I don't know. I was just trying to think of what the executive would be like presenting that idea. You know,
Well, I mean, you could probably imagine
I've
that
got a
Dan
$1 million
Aykroyd's
idea.
like the like he's like the most communicative, like he's the champion of the sequel in the first place. Well, Bill Murray's like kind of like, whatever, I don't care. And Harold Ramis would work on it, but you got to also figure that like Harold Ramis is now like fully busy like around this around this time. Like he's like a full swing of his career. So like he has probably the most. Dan Aykroyd has the most energy to dedicate to it. Is probably in touch with the studio the most. So they're like. Oh, I can only imagine like how stupid the lunches were. Like, yes, exactly. You know, I bet you get like, super successful Dan Aykroyd together with like rich and powerful Columbia Studios heads. You know, they go out for a power lunch. They get into the, I bet that's how you end up with the Statue of Liberty.
yeah. But I don't know. I think the Statue of Liberty is definitely the guiltiest offender of retreading. Like the way they take the characters is fresh. The jokes and the dialogue are fresh. And I just love how much how the Ghostbusters keep like facing like blowback in the second one. Like because the first one ends with like this triumphant "we saved New York," and the second one starts out, "Yeah, we did, but we like destroyed a bunch of shit and got sued by the city and got put out of business." And then on top of that, at the beginning of the story of this one, and Dana's like, "What's going on with the slime? Can you look into it or whatever?" And they start drilling the hole in the street and all that. But that's why they end up in court, is because they drilled the hole in the street, and they end up losing that case and getting sentenced to 18 months in prison, which they only get out of because the ghosts are conjured up, and the guy's like, "All right, I'll rescind your sentence if you fight these ghosts." But like. I don't know. I love that aspect of it, and like when they get committed to the mental institution, like after they leave the mayor's office, and you get another snake like politician. I guess he's not the EPA this time, but that's a bit of a retread. But I like that he's even like a different character, the way he approaches it. But yeah, the Statue of Liberty thing is definitely a just somebody trying to be like, we need to redo a big thing walking down the street moment. Yeah,
that's what people think of when they think of Ghostbusters. But yeah, but I'm with you. Like, and I used to just dismiss the whole thing because it just, as over time, as I kind of got away from my childhood, I was like, nah, it's not a good movie. But like, actually, it is a good movie that just has some big flaws in it. And if you take out, I mean, again, I know you don't see eye to eye with me on all this stuff, and you're kind of like willing to let it ride, like a couple of things ride. I'm just not. But like, I would give like the things that piss me off are like bad, like get it out of there, really, really bad. But like I will agree with you that everything that's good about, like everything you just mentioned in that last little recap, I agreed. It's great storytelling, it's great character building. The characters are like fully intact from beginning to end. Oh, there is another thing I also do not like in this movie. I always forget it. And when it happens at the end, I'm just like, ugh. Like when Vigo comes out of the painting and then they bust him and he blows up and then the painting explodes and all this stuff. And they're like, oh, we did it. And they turn back and it's like the four of them, you know, hold.
That just seems like a we don't know what to do here
Yes.
moment.
It ended like an SNL skit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that definitely bothers me a little bit.
It's just so dumb.
Especially because Vigo coming out of the painting there also kind of breaks the internal logic of the whole setup there.
Right.
Whereas like he needed the baby to like inhabit, you know, a new body and all this stuff.
Yeah.
It's like,
right.
It looks like he can just step out of that painting, no problem. Why does he need the baby here?
Yeah, why was he just walking around doing his own bidding this whole time if he could do that? Yeah, the ending's an absolute mess, and but it doesn't kill the spirit. Like you still walk away from the movie feeling like, you know what?
Yeah,
this is really good. And I love like the even like the soundtrack updates were great. The Run DMC's kind of like update on the original theme.
Yeah, I love the spooky raps in it.
Oh yeah, only my life was saved
in the night.
I guess the first time I'd heard spooky rap when I was a kid.
Yeah. They came from the grave.
Yeah. I didn't see didn't see a hand coming out the ground. I loved it though.
We should make a spooky rap song.
Yeah, I'm into it. I'll be the DJ.
Oh man, that means I got to be the rapper.
Yep. I just am not. I'm just not a rapper.
That's fine. I'm not mad.
No, I'll do it with you. I'll step out there. We can get another DJ. Wonder what.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, I feel like that's. I would recommend it now more than I ever would. It's Ghostbusters 2 is I would normally have given it 3 stars out of 5 if I were grading it on the same 5-point system except with letters. I would give it a C. But I'll probably give it a C plus B minus.
I give it just a B. I think it's a B, a solid B.
Yeah, I know why you're saying that, and I want to agree with you, but I feel like they fucked the ending up so badly that I can't. I'll give them B minus as high as I can go. It's as high as I can do. That's all I can do. It's as high as I go.
Fair enough. That's much higher than you had ever been in the past. So I'll take
all right.
it.
Fine.
Also, I just we were talking about earlier Dan Aykroyd's probably being the guy behind seeing it like a product and the merchandising and stuff like that. I was just looking and seeing that Ghostbusters 2 came out June 16th, 1989. June 23rd, 1989 was Tim Burton's Batman, which just took over everything. And I seem to recall, the Batman like phenomenon was like happening well before the movie came out. So I think, Ghostbusters the whole time was probably competing with, whatever the pop culture space that Batman was very, very solidly occupying.
Yeah, but they didn't need to like carve a new hole. Like the first movie like carved the hole, right? The channel that it lived in, and it just could exist in that channel. Like in the same way by the time Empire Strikes Back came out, they didn't have to, it didn't have to tell the story. Like you already were looking at that space that they had created for themselves. So even though like Empire came out up against some really giant movies, that E.T., okay, like same year roughly, right? Empire came out in 80.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm off.
I think E.T. was 81.
I'm off, but like it didn't matter like what else was out there because it already had its space, and I feel like it would have been fine. Like the success of Batman shouldn't have affected the quality of the script of Ghostbusters 2.
No. I guess no, it shouldn't. But I guess just as far as we're gonna put the 2 in the Ghostbusters logo, and then we're gonna put that all over T-shirts and cups and,
I see what you're saying. So maybe they felt like some pressure to do so.
Yeah, I feel like on that level they were probably trying to be like, oh shit, the Batman logo is everywhere. We got to get this Ghostbusters 2 logo everywhere.
Yeah, and that's what happens when you take things away from the creators, and then the asshole who gets it placed on a McDonald's cup all of a sudden has as much say as Ivan Reitman, the director, or something like that. Yeah. That's
Oh, that reminds me. Actually, there's a Jason Reitman cameo in this movie that I also wasn't aware of.
That's right.
He's the little kid that says, "My dad says you guys are full of crap."
Well, some people have a hard time
Which is also
believing in the
hilarious.
paranormal. No, he just says you're full of crap. Yeah, and he's directing the new one,
Yep.
which I think I'm more excited for that than you are.
Yeah, I currently have zero excitement for it. I'm prepared for a massive letdown. As much as I love Jason Reitman and think that he is the guy to tackle it, just the trailer for it, and I think you said there's a new trailer that I haven't seen.
A newer
yet.
trailer than you've seen.
But the
yeah.
initial one that I saw, just kind of just gave me that like standard like, the fad that might even be over now from like a year or two ago, where it was like all 80s throwback, and there's the Stranger Kids,
Stranger Kids,
or Stranger
the
Things
Stranger Kids,
the Stranger Kids. Yeah, that's what we should call our spooky rap duo. But yeah, the kids from Stranger Things are like in that, and then there's like the It remakes, and I feel like there's like a bunch of stuff like that, and then all of a sudden the new Ghostbusters trailer came out, and it's like kids with Ghostbusters stuff, and not just any kids, one of the kids from Stranger Things, and I don't know, it left me with I don't know, not a bad taste in my mouth, but just like that it was shooting for a vibe that was very much of the moment that now, due to COVID-19, has been postponed to the point where like it might not even be relevant to what they were shooting for, for when it was originally supposed to be released, when it does finally come out.
Yeah, maybe. I'm optimistic because Jason Reitman grew up, with the franchise, like right in the heart of it. He probably understands it as much as anybody, certainly more so than like Giles Martin understands the Beatles, maybe just because he was like, George Martin's son. Suddenly he's like just in charge of the most important musical property, one of the most important musical properties in the world history.
Yeah, Jason Reitman is an Academy Award nominated director.
Even winner, I believe.
Already. Yeah, you might be right. I know he was nominated for Juno. I can't remember if he won or not.
Right. Okay, so like, at least nominated, but like he's a renowned director and writer in his own right. So it makes sense that he would step in. I also feel like, they're going to throw things out in the trailer that are going to spark the interest of people. Maybe it's not a bad thing that it looks like Stranger Things at that time, because all of a sudden, like just in the same way that you were enticed about 2 because of the things you'd seen in the Ghostbusters cartoon. Like if you were like, I'm a kid and I wasn't there in 1984 when this came out, it kind of like speaks to them. I just think there's enough little Easter eggs in the trailer, little details that make me think that it was very thoughtfully put together, and I remain optimistic. I'm not saying I'm like, super excited, but like I'm really keen to see it because I would like to see, like for the same reason that every time I go see a new Star Wars movie, and less so with each passing chapter, but I would walk in with like a high level of like anticipation and excitement, because like who doesn't want more good Star Wars? Now, what we got is a well-documented mixed bag. But I want it to succeed because I want there to be more of the good shit that I like, and have it like just have the story carry on. And with something like, what Dan Aykroyd and Harold Ramis set up in the 80s, you can go anywhere with it, and as long as your cast has chemistry and there's good, comedy, you maintain the comedic mix, and then also have moments that are like, scare the shit out of you, because that's another thing they're great at. There are moments there. I mean, there's definitely like one moment in each movie that still make me go like, ugh, like, yeah, but like the vibe.
Yeah, I mean, I hope it's great. But my expectations are pretty much rock bottom, and I'm satisfied with 1 and 2 enough for me to be like, I will continue to just watch those movies over and over and over again. Because it gets to a point like the last Star Wars movie I didn't even care about, like one of my favorite film franchises of all time, and the advertisements are everywhere, and I'm like, I don't care about this Star Wars movie. And then I saw it and I still didn't care about it. I was like, I kind of just wish they didn't make it, because now I feel like, I don't know.
No, I get it.
That's why I love obviously the Back to the Future franchise, each movie loses a little bit from the previous movie. But I like that Bob Gale and Robert Zemeckis were like, no, that is it. And as long as we're alive, there's going to be no more Back to the Futures. And I'm fine with that because I love all three of those movies. And every couple of years, I'll go back and watch all three and be like, that was a fun ride. I'll let it die down and go back again. But I would rather have that than have like a bunch of terrible Back to the Future movies come out, or Ghostbusters movies, if that's what we're going to get.
So I feel like you could have an approach to Back to the Future which should be like post. You know what I mean? Like what if like young people found that stuff and like, whoa, like what if like a kid ended up, you know what I mean? Like just going for a joyride in a DeLorean and all of a sudden they're in like dinosaur times. I don't know. Like that's a bad example, but like, you know what I mean? Like they could end up anywhere.
Yeah.
And I think that there's something to be said for that. And it could even get like,
Well, except for I was just going to say, they did destroy the DeLorean at the end of the third one, but of course then they undid that by bringing in Doc with his little train thing. So
yeah,
it's like the technology, I guess, does still exist in universe.
that's right. And I'll still, they could have the train, whatever. And I'll also argue that like with each time they got in the time machine, they created a new timeline. So the DeLorean got destroyed in the Back to the Future 3 timeline.
We'll have to bring in some sort of like expert on time travel when we have our Back to the Future discussion.
I think as far as a discussion like this, we are as expert as you need to be in time travel, because I feel like if we had an actual expert in time travel on the show, they'd probably say time travel is not possible. And then that would be like the end of this.
Yeah. That's my expert opinion.
Yeah, and I don't want to hear that.
It's not possible.
I've got movies I'm trying to enjoy over here, pal. Back off.
Take your reality and go elsewhere.
Yeah, please. But I guess you can get into black holes and all that kind of stuff. Well, that's, I mean, got to end it at some point.
Yeah. I got you to raise your grade, your view of Ghostbusters 2, and that's all I care about. So.
Yes. You helped me to be open to seeing the good in it, whereas apparently in times of yore, the darkness overcame me. Should we sign this thing off?
Let's sign off.
Thanks for tuning in. If you want to help us out, you can tell a friend, because A, we enjoy doing the show. B, that's B is the same as A. We just really enjoy doing the show. And also, this is a nice gig for us who, as musicians, where we can't play music right now. So if you do like it, you do enjoy it, if you tell friends about it, this is something we'd like to continue to do for the foreseeable future, if you're interested in such matters.
And hope that you're enjoying that we are doing this show.
Yeah, I do too.
So it's not just for us. It's for you.
It's definitely for them. I mean,
yeah.
All we're doing is recording conversations that we'd normally have on any given day anyway. So this is not for us. This is for you. We already had this.
Oh yeah, that's right.
All right. Well, I guess that's about the size of it.
Yeah.
Any closing words?
Yes.
Okay.
Be excellent to each other. Party on, dudes. That's it. That's all I got.
That's all you need. It's time for Happy Hour, presented by Main Spirits. This week we're going to keep it going with the local ingredients, including but not limited to Bar Hill Gin and Raw Honey. The drink we're going to make is called a Bee's Knees, which you may have had at an establishment or on your own. But we're going to show you how to make one in the comfort of your own home. So let's get our tools together. We're going to need a shaker, a jigger, a strainer, and a coupe glass, a coupie glass, a kaupi glass. For ingredients, we'll need the following: Bar Hill Gin, raw honey, fresh lemon juice, and warm water. Let's build this thing. In the strainer, combine 1 teaspoon of raw honey, 1 teaspoon of fresh lemon juice, and 1 teaspoon of warm water. From the tap is fine. It doesn't need to be boiling hot. Now swirl that around until the honey is fully dissolved. Now, add the 1 1/2 ounces of gin and ice and shake until very, very cold. Very cold. Now, strain that into your kaupi glass, and garnish with a lemon twist. Now take a sip. Ba-boom. The classic bee's knees, light, refreshing, summery. You can learn more about this drink and other drinks by myself and other people at mainspirits.com. You can download their app for your smartphone, but not for your dumb phone. It doesn't exist. And you can also follow them on Instagram at main_spirits. And as always, this is coming from myself and the company, we encourage you to drink deliciously and responsibly. Spencer and Zach Explore the Universe is brought to you by Main Spirits. You can visit them online at mainspirits.com or download their app or visit them on Instagram at main_spirits. The show is also brought to you by Bull Moose, serving Maine and New Hampshire's music, movie, video game, and book and trinket needs since 1782. Also brought to you by Sun Tiki Studios at 375 Forest Avenue or at suntikistudios.com. Spencer and Zach Explore the Universe is a Mistakes Were Made production.